Good afternoon. Marco, thank you, and thank you everybody for coming. Seeking Alpha, the future of investment research. Why are we the future, and why is the future coming upon us so quickly? Traditional investment research providers before Seeking Alpha paid analysts to produce reports and recommended to buy or hold or rarely sell a stock. When David Jackson, who is our founder, founded Seeking Alpha in 2005, the concept was that there's a missing voice here and a very powerful voice in the investment landscape, and that's the voice of the investor rather than the voice of the paid analyst. Investors do due diligence that's an order of magnitude higher than the analyst because they have millions of dollars at stake, and what they get or don't get as a result of their investment research is not a paycheck at the end of the month, but rather portfolio performance. And so we opened a platform and started reaching out to investment providers. What was our mission? We're a mission-driven company. So our mission was to empower investors to make smarter investment decisions. We felt that by bringing that voice to the table, you could get investors listening to other investors, and those interactions are enormously valuable for both the providers of those opinions and for the recipients of those opinions as the discussion evolves. Our vision is to dominate US investment research by becoming the most profitable platform for research providers. Profitable here, I define loosely. Profitability is measured in dollars, it's measured in exposure, it's measured in whatever the investment research provider views as his payday from wanting to provide that investment research. For many of them, it's simply the give and take with other investors, or the stress testing of some of their ideas, or the catalyzing of their ideas, which they've already fully invested in, but now need to deliver that message to other people because the stock won't move unless other people buy into the thesis as well. The obligatory TAM slide, yes, it's a big market. It's a very rich market, and finding a footprint in that market is something that financially can be very rewarding. As a result of the unique approach we took, which is to reach out to investors rather than analysts, we've actually grown as a platform larger than the entire sell side as far as providing investment research to investors. That's because what we provide is what I call opportunity-driven research. Sell-side and traditional investment research providers generally have a defined coverage universe, which is defined by the economics of their subscriber base. So they've got clients. Clients need research on certain stocks, and they have to hire analysts to produce a rating on those stocks. The typical Seeking Alpha contributor doesn't start with the name of a stock. He starts looking for an opportunity and works from there. And what ends up happening is not only higher quality and what I call opportunity-driven rather than coverage-driven research, what also happens is you get a much broader range of stocks being covered because, as investors know, the alpha opportunities often lie on the outliers of the investment landscape rather than the stocks that all the firms are already covering. Crowdsourcing, which is the foundation of what we do, lets allow thousands of active contributors to produce the opinion that will help influence people's investment decisions. It wins greater breadth, higher quality of knowledge. The discussion that then ensues surfaces better results. You've got the wisdom of the crowd's quite well-known Purdue study that looked at different platforms, the only platform that produced consistently high results by mining the conversation and opinions that were happening with Seeking Alpha. And all of this happens in real time. It's not a PDF which is sent out by email. It's things that are happening as the investment landscape evolves. Strong network effect. What contributors want readers for? They want influence, feedback, connections, and client leads. Readers are looking for broadest coverage, multiple perspective, and high-quality investment analysis. If you add to that money, it becomes much more powerful. And this brings me to the topic of the discussion, which is the evolution from an ad-supported model, or the moving from an ad-supported only model to a model that also embraces subscriptions. The first thing we did was to empower contributors to build their own businesses on SeekingAlpha. They were out there, they were engaging with our readers, they had built significant engaged audiences, and they said, we could do more, but we can't do more in an ad-supported model. It doesn't give us enough payback for the kind of work that we're doing. So we launched what we called the Investor Marketplace. Anecdote, 2.5 years ago, we threw something together, a proof of concept. We reached out to 10 contributors and say, we'd really like to test this out. We'll build you a canvas, we'll do the payment processing, and you decide what you want to sell and what you want to keep for free. All of them had a broad presence on SeekingAlpha. I said to the team, when we hit $100,000 in annual recurring revenue, we go out for dinner. We went out for dinner the first week. It just took off immediately. Today, the Investor Marketplace has 175 different investors are now providing services to other investors. It's largely for self-directed investors. The average monthly price is $52. And as you can see, the growth has been phenomenal. The blue line indicates the growth of authors. The orange line is subscriber growth. And the green line is the MRR. Phase 2. So we've built this investor marketplace. We've got 175 authors engaging. We also have this huge platform with 4,000 active authors, and people are looking for more from that platform. How do we take the entire SeekingAlpha, which is this very popular and busy website, and build a subscription layer on top of that? In other words, how do we exploit the freemium property that we've built to build a subscription business that isn't just centered around contributors? SeekingAlpha Pro. So at this conference, you've heard a lot of success stories. We've struggled with Pro for a long time. We tried a number of different things. They were fiddling at the edges, and we didn't really get huge traction. And we took a step back last year, and we said, what is it that we have that investors want the most? And took a look at that and said, well, what we're going to do is we're going to keep the follow your stocks experience free, but in order to do deep dive research on stocks, that we're going to ask users to pay for. We launched this in January as a small test this year and went live with it in February. So this is SA Pro. You come to an article, you're doing research on BP, and here's what you're presented with. To read the full thesis, you've got to subscribe. So the free experience is follow your stocks. The subscriber experience is research your ideas. This is what happened on February 14th, when after a 14-day free trial, the users who had started subscribing subscribed. It just took off like wildfire. We felt that for the first time we'd come up with a concept that touched on what investors really wanted. And my takeaway from that is, if there are other people out there thinking about how do you take your free product and build a subscription business on top of it, it takes a little bit of guts, but you have to sell the bun, you can't sell the burger. You have to find out what you have that leaves enough value for the free user to keep them coming back, but gives enough value to the paying subscriber that he's willing to pay and keep paying for it. And I think that's what we did after a number of false starts with Pro. Phase 3, and with this I'll finish. There's a lot of talk today about MiFID, et cetera, and the disruption of the institutional research market. The regulators in Europe are out in front of this. It's going to happen in the US. The decoupling of research from brokerage is real, and I think it's a good thing, because what it means is that research providers are going to have to actually provide value rather than obfuscate that value in some cloud of what they call soft dollars. And I think that's a good thing for the industry ultimately, but it plays to the strengths of independent research providers who've actually always had to grapple with the problem of what do I have that's valuable, and plays to the disadvantage of the bulge bracket firms who've never had to deal with that. And I think it positions players like SeekingAlpha in a unique place to provide the platform for those relationships to develop. The research provider on one hand, the investors on the other hand, and I think from that, you're going to see a lot of disruption in the coming years where people who have relied on large firms switch over to smaller providers who are more economical and ultimately greater value providers. A small anecdote about that, we were looking at our data recently, and I noticed that we had one subscriber who is subscribed to more than 25 of our marketplace services. And it was just like, how could he possibly even have enough time to read all of those? So we called him up. I said, why are you subscribing to all this? He said, well, it's me and my partner. We manage about $75 million. And the cost of us to bring in in-house analysts is about $1 million a year, all in. Salary, seat, Bloomberg terminal, everything. We view you guys as a virtual research floor. We hire your guys, we occasionally fire them, but we get way more value out of the couple $1,000s we're spending on SeekingAlpha a month for that virtual investment floor than we get out of a single analyst where we take a huge bet on one guy. Thanks for listening and have a great day.